Welcome to the watch list. Before I get into what I'm watching, which is, not a lot here, there's nothing exciting me. Come over to ztrades.net, check out the terms and conditions page, agree to the terms and conditions. If you do not agree, don't watch the video. If you do agree, continue to keep watching. Also, join the Discord, which is in the description below. What is this right here? Anyways, I'm on a 1 hour chart. Let's go ahead and move over. Let's take a look at, I'm going to go over everything. First off, we have tariffs. They go into effect April 2nd, which is Wednesday. And we're starting to have a reaction to what's going to happen. So, I think we're done. That's why we're dumping. It was known. Here's what shook me. This really just confused me over here. Let's take a look at this. I want to zoom in on this and make this as big as possible. Let's really, really get into this. There we go. Here's the bear flag I had charted before, and I was in this, and I made money. It was quad witching over here, the first quadruple witching of the year. I was in puts. I don't know where. I got in late, somewhere over in here, and we had sucked up a bit into close. I was down a little bit on Thursday. We dropped hard. That is from about 565, and I closed right at open to 558. That's a good seven-ish dollar drop, and I was in puts. My God, did they pay? And right after that, we sucked up, and I was expecting this bear flag for it to be a bloody Friday and quad witching, and it didn't happen. Then we shot up, and I'm like, so the bear flag failed, right? So trying to chart this now to make this a complete, I suppose we could do it like this. I suppose. Let me go ahead and chart this thing out a bit. Right. Now that looks a bit better. Let's try to refresh this. Oof. Let's come over to a daily here. I don't know how I'm going to, there we go. There we go. Let's put the indicators back up. Okay. What I should have done, I was gone Thursday and Friday. But what I should have done is recharted this. This was screaming puts. Then we had a little gap down here to 565. Right over in here when we started to peel down, that was the dead giveaway right there, that this thing's done. I want to take a look at SPY on the weekly as well. Let's go back to the daily real quick. We have the 200 right here, this white line. Let's zoom out so you guys can see this a bit better. I'll move my mug down here. We had the 200 with a bear flag. Bear flag is broken. We're dropping. And we have tariffs going into effect next week. Now, it wouldn't surprise me if we ended up bouncing the day the tariffs go into effect, because you know how the market works. It doesn't wait for the tariffs to go into effect. They're going to be like, let me dump now. I'm going to sell now. Everyone's like, I'm going to sell now before the tariffs come into effect because I know that other people are going to sell before, and I want to sell before those people. And those people are like, I want to sell before those people. I'm just kind of going over the mentality of how the market works, just like in COVID. I don't understand why we're ripping. Supply chains are still shut down. What, do you think the market's going to wait? People are going to buy the dip prior because other people are going to be buying the dip prior, and they want to get ahead of those people who want to get ahead of those people. The second, if you're catching what I'm saying here, if you get what I'm saying, we could bounce at that point. We'll see. It wouldn't shock me. So people waiting to swing puts the day tariffs go into effect, probably not a good idea. You should have been in them on Thursday, especially right here. Look at this. Let me zoom in here. This body is below that body, and this body is just below that wick. If I had my head on straight on Thursday, I would have been in puts for the swing if I would have been on top of it. Watch us bounce right around here, 551. We could have a bounce there, and who knows where it'll go after that. I just don't see any clear TA. If I had more time, I would. I should have pre-charted the fibs, but that doesn't look good. This was that strong support I had been talking about all early this year, which I said I thought we'd bounce off of, which we did initially. We kissed it at 566 and sucked up. That was in one day to 570. Retested over here. Now we're done. This thing's gonna get smacked. What's funny is there's a little gap fill right there. You see that? That gap hasn't been filled from this candle to that one to where? Right about 505. Now, I don't think it's going to go there immediately. I do think we will fill that gap at some point this summer. The summers are always crap. What's the hottest point of the year? Basic October's a coin toss. Things start shaking up. You know, you get that big drop in September. That's when things get fun. Usually, this last September was fantastic, and we were bullish through it. You know, you can argue October. You know, if you're playing downside September, October, it's coin toss, hit or miss, sometimes choppy, sometimes great. Usually around late October through mid to late January, we are on fire. Then we have a dip in February. Then we have a bounce. Then we have walk away May. And then things are flat and lame. July sometimes is a decent market. August, you know, whatever. But the summers is what the point I'm trying to make is the summers are kind of lame. Let's go ahead and move on here. QQQ, what was that? Look at this bear flag I had charted. I kind of ignored it. I'm like, it failed. So a failed bear flag is very bullish. I needed to readjust it is all. There we go. That fits perfectly. Beautiful. There we go. Yeah, that thing's cooked. We could bounce up off it. There's nothing that I really see. I'm looking at value too, guys. I really don't have a lot for this. We can even look at defense. Nothing. I'm going to go over some of the tech names. It's the same chart on all of them. All right, we got the same thing on Microsoft. Let's take a look. Microsoft. Same thing there. It doesn't look good. Looks like we're going to dump. I can just keep going. Let's remove the indicators. Move this over here. Netflix Head and Shoulders. This is a daily. Let's move over to a weekly. Let's go back to a daily, actually, because I have this charted out on a daily. And I think we could hit this down here. That's a long bar, though. 973 to 931 in 1 week. We could dance around. I still think we're going to see that right there. Where's SPY? Where was that? Let me jump over to a weekly here. There's where I think we're going to head, guys. I've been talking about this in multiple sessions. At some point, we'll reach that. Now, I don't think it's going to go directly down. That would be something catastrophic. It's going to dance, you know, come down, dance, pop up. At some point, it will fill that over in here somewhere. Let's keep moving. I was looking at AT&T. For fun, I bought a call. It was like 7 cents one. But then I'm seeing this divergence down here. Look at RSI, how low it is with this pop. That thing doesn't look good. And I'm honestly thinking about swinging puts on that. We'll see. This is higher than this was, yet RSI was higher over here than it was here. We've got some bearish divergence. Just an idea. Let's take a look at Verizon. Really doesn't look that good at all. HIMS never went. HIMS didn't do it. You know, this thing was set up to go. It somewhat did from my watch list. Watching it right down here at 32. We had a pop to 38. That's pretty decent. 32 to 38. If you got in anywhere in there, even if it was at 33 to 38, $5 move, you made money, but the premium on it was disgusting. So since it's so high, if I own shares, can you imagine selling cover calls on that up? That would just be free money. Free money. I sold the 20s, I think it was, or the 22. It was the 20s. I can't remember what date. I'm not going to look right now. It's going to take too long. Sold cash secured puts on that. So hopefully I can get a sign on some HIMS. I mean, the earnings is great. Look at the earnings over here. It's like a sea of green. Their earnings is fantastic. So if it comes down to 20, I get assigned. I'm not worried about that. Let's look at Tempest AI. She had a big pop-up recently. I saw this thing pop up to 61 and I was like, why didn't I have that? Why didn't I snag it? Because when we popped, when did Nancy P get in? It was right over, it was announced when it was down here, and immediately legged up, a lot, and ran all the way to 91. And then people bought calls on earnings. It doesn't mean they're going to have a good earnings because Nancy Pelosi bought options on it, and you know what I mean? And it went up. That has nothing to do with that. That's what you should buy puts on that because it's overinflated. Just like when GME had earnings in AMC back when the during the meme coin rage. It's like that doesn't mean their earnings are good because it's ripping. It didn't rip because the earnings were good in the first place. So it's coming down now. So now I feel better because if it ripped all the way back up, I would have just had to take a break for a day or two. I'd be so upset with myself. Crash right. Where was I? You got to live on the charts. Go over all these names. You should be looking at 20 names a day on higher time frames. Towards the end of the day, seeing where we're closing at. Because at the end of the day, you're like, well, there's 20 minutes left. This candle's not doing much. It's probably going to close at what it is. That's a reversal candle right on anchored VWAP. You could have been in that. Let me just take the 58 down to the following day to 52. That's a decent drop, $6. All right, 2 days later, we're down to 47. $10 move on a stock that low. So hopefully this thing will get smacked, and then we can do what? We can fill this gap right here. That would be great. I want to see that happen. Keep in mind, we also had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bars in a row. We come down into this gap, and if we fill that gap, I'm going to sell a boatload of cash secured puts. Maybe one at the money for way, way out. Or I'll tier it, I'll ladder it. A bunch of, like, let's say, down to 20 strikes for 3 months out, then a 25 for 2 months out, and then something like a 30 or a 34, 33, something like that. We'll see when the time comes. It depends on what they're paying and what's going on with the market. So I still think defense is going to be garbage this year, especially with Trump in. It doesn't look like we're going to be gearing up for too much war unless they're going to expand the military. We'll see. When the time comes, we'll talk about defense. But obviously that thing was done if not Nancy Pelosi. Wouldn't that be funny if she was president? If Kamala was in. Let's keep moving here. I can pull up the tech stocks, guys. It's the same stuff. It's the same story on all of them. It's the same chart. It's a waste of time. I am watching NVDA. Let's pull this up here. Let's take a look at the weekly. Wait a second here. Do we have a sloppy head and shoulders? If you would even call that a right shoulder, would you call that a right shoulder? Would you call this area a head? Not necessarily, because there's a dip in it and I'm putting it in the middle of the dip. I guess you could. Maybe, right? Maybe. I'm not going with that. I'm not going to claim this is a head and shoulders. I'm kind of having fun here. But yeah, this thing's getting rocked. Let me go ahead and chart some. I just want to see. I want to see something real quick, guys. There we go. Interesting. Interesting. Well, I didn't need to do that. That was a waste of time. I have that needs to be removed. Yeah, so we got the 100 right around. So my target on this is around 95, 97, somewhere in there. Let me go back over to a daily. There was a gap. Where is the gap? It's like I'm playing I'm reading Where's Waldo right now, back in the 90s. Where is the gap? I don't know where it is. I'm not going to take up your time. We have a gap here to 69. Wouldn't that, show of hands, who's going to buy the $4 gap? I'm joking. There's gaps everywhere, but that's because it's a good stock and it explodes because their earnings were great. $30 gap. I don't see that happening. If it does happen, I mean, come on. What do you think you're going to do? What are you going to do? You know what you're going to do. You know what I'm going to do. If we filled this gap over here at 68, if we really have a big stock market hit, which I do believe that we're going to drop have a decent drop. EU's not going to back off, but they're just going to destroy themselves and shoot themselves in the foot. That could possibly happen. Again, short term, 95. 95. I think right where these tops were in here, that's going to act as there'd be a volume shelf there. This is not doing what I wanted to do here. The volume over here, I'd have to re-edit it, the settings, but the volume profile. But anyways, I believe that we could come down to here, 96-ish, 95-ish, where these tops are. I'd like to see that happen. We got 105 next. So we could potentially have a $12 drop at some point. It doesn't mean it's going to happen at once. And again, what I said at the beginning of the video, we might just pop up. We could just pop up on April 2nd when the tariffs go into effect. Unless something, it doesn't look like something good's going to happen. I feel like if they were going to back off, that would have already happened. But this is a good thing. Let's let this market get smacked. I'm really not in much. I'm in Nimbus, and then things that really don't have anything to do with the market: gold, silver, treasuries. They do, I know, somewhat, but they don't have earnings. Nimbus does, but they don't. TLT doesn't have earnings. Neither does gold or silver, and they're just not stopping. They're going parabolic, and I'm not going to try to catch the top on this and go short. Let's take a look at a weekly on silver. Beautiful. Let it rip. Let's go over to gold. Oh my gosh, look at that. You just keep going. Last thing I'm going to cover here is Bitcoin. Look at this. So I had been talking about this cup and handle that had been building since 2011 when we came out of the '08 crash. Right over here, we were hiking rates, and then it was anticipating rate cuts, kind of like we were doing over here. We started to anticipate it, and it went nuts. And then it priced in that inflation was... That's another story. But this was a fantastic run. I called this move on gold. That was one of my best calls. The Bitcoin halving cycle is very easy. You know, the other people that know about it, if you're calling for it to go up, they're like, duh. But to the average person, they're like, really? How did you time that? And it's just, it comes with experience. The gold I am proud of. Jazz in the server. We have all our chats of us. We literally, the low in October of 2022, we bought that, and it happened to be the low, and we never looked back since then. But anyways, we were in the middle of QT, quantitative tightening. Dollar up, metals down, right? Dollar up, metals down. So dollar down, metals up under certain conditions. Again, another conversation. We rejected right here off the 20 EMA. Yeah, we could hit the 50. Again, I think we're going to come to this area over in here around 72. This is where we start having volume shelves. Look at the big volume gaps over here. It's going to fill it, in my opinion. It's going to fill it. And I think that we're going to come down and we're going to see these highs again in the 90s, maybe even 100. It could go higher, but it won't go much higher. Like where? Where? Like here. Like before. We had a giant parabolic run. It would have been awesome if they had the Bitcoin spot ETF that they announced they were going to do it in January, like in December when we started to run, and we could have ripped from down here all the way up to there. Oh my gosh. All that continued momentum, what that would have done to alts with a violent run like that, it would have just been great. Anyways, let's see how long it lasted. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me just go to a monthly. We'll do it that way. Okay. Basically 2.5-ish months. We can, 2.5 months. All right, we've been down for 1. We're coming into 2 now. And it looks like the market might get smacked with these tariffs going into play and all that stuff, and then more retaliatory tariffs. So maybe that could happen. Wouldn't it be awesome if we got down there to the 20? I would go long. I think here's the thing to keep in mind, guys. I'm already in a little bit of IBIT. I scaled back in. I almost called the top. I called the top at 97. I said I'm out right over in here. And then I cut the rest at 92 over in here somewhere. Got out all of it. And I'd been in since April of 2023 for the 2024 halving cycle, right? But I'm running out of time here. Inflation's coming under control. Yeah, eggs are going down. They were going to go down regardless. Didn't matter who was in, with the bird flu killing all the birds, for preventative measures of the bird flu. But eggs are coming down. Gas is coming down. Gas, energy. You need energy down. You get energy down, inflation gets clobbered. It affects everything. All food is affected when gas is down. I have to keep saying this. How do you get food? How does it sent to you? Is it by planes? Well, no. Is it by diesel trucks? Yeah. Wouldn't that cut the cost of transportation? Plastics are made, it affects everything. Plastic, food, everything you wear, everything becomes less expensive when you got low energy. If you want to bang an economy, you need low energy costs. You've got to have it. Inflation is coming down. Powell may get his 2%. I think he's going to do it. And and I'd like to see the stock market lower as well. That would be perfect. But again, another conversation, another video with QE unwinding. When inflation starts to become under control, and everyone thinks it's, rainbows and butterflies and rates are dropping, we fall. So .com, as well as that was for some other reasons as well, and 08 for some other reasons. But we had a collapse when we were unwinding out of QE. So I think inflation is going to come under control this summer. It's going to start plummeting, especially late this summer. I don't have a lot that I'm watching. I'm watching for levels to get hit. And I want to see how the market reacts when tariffs go into effect. April 2nd, I'm pretty sure. I'm almost positive on that. April 2nd. So let's just sit back. I'm going to sit on my hands and I'm going to keep trading. Look at my trades. Look how banging my trades have been. Even with all that nonsense going on with me, I was had to take a break for a little bit. But for a day or two here, I never do that. But let's just take a look at top flow. Let's just go over it. I called Tesla puts, 720. Let's keep going. We called Tesla calls, 370 to 1200. NVIDIA puts 69 cents. Those NVIDIA saw 285. We can just keep going. Okay, so TSLA 105 from 45 cents. What else? What was the price here? 605 from what? Yeah, from 435, 42 cents to 61. That was a quick one. I do these live on voice, 1280. Let's take a look. Meta calls. NVIDIA puts. I mean, they're just banger after banger after banger. It's been a monthly win streak on this. I don't want to jinx it now, but there's been plenty of trades for everybody. Plenty of trades. So I'm fine with day trading. I'm fine with scalping in the meantime. And I want to see some levels get hit. And I want to see the market set up. I want to see a setup before I start calling stuff. So let's sit back and see what happens. If you guys like this content, make sure to like and follow for more. Join the Discord completely free. Link is in the bio.